Hi, this is Phil Newman from Longevity.Technology, and I'm delighted to say that this afternoon I'm joined by Chris Mirabile, founder and CEO, or co-founder and CEO of NOVOS. Hey, Chris.
Hi, Phil. Nice to be here.
Oh, well, Chris, great to be here. And obviously we're going to be talking biological age reversal today, one of those very hot topics. I understand that your results have even knocked Brian Johnson's into touch, all of that with having had survived a brain tumor. So tell me, how did you do it?
Good question. Yeah. So when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor shortly after suffering from a seizure, which was a huge surprise to me and my family. And fortunately, I can live. I have lived to tell the story. Yes, but after having that much physiological trauma and emotional trauma and so on, you would expect that maybe that would accelerate aging, as some studies have found that childhood or teenage trauma can do. But my results from epigenetic age testing and physiological markers are quite good, according to those who are running the tests, at least. So at the same lab that Brian Johnson has completed his epigenetic tests, I've had mine run, and different markers, everything from the Dunedin pace rate of aging. Mine is 0.69, so that implies 31% slower aging. And then also taking the average of 10 different epigenetic clock outputs, that comes out to being 13.5 years younger than my chronological age. And so that would imply that I'm aging about 36% slower than average. And so then the question is, like, what am I doing? To be honest with you, I didn't expect results as good as I got. I've always been healthy, but I wasn't expecting that. And so, but what do I do? I've been quite disciplined for a long time in terms of my diet and my exercise routines and sleep and stress management and so on. And so, although a lot of people want to hear about all of these like crazy things that people could potentially do with hormonal therapies and blood transfers and so on, what I do is not nearly as exciting as that. It's things that only cost me a couple $100s a month and is accessible for everyone practically. So when it comes to diet, for example, I'm strict with my diet for most of the week. I'd say 1 to 2 meals on the weekends. I'm straying. I might have the pasta or the pizza or the dessert, but for the most part during the week, I'm following a strict diet. And that diet specifically is based off of the foundation of the Mediterranean diet, which is found to be the best for longevity purposes. But it's specifically the NOVOS longevity diet, where we've modified some aspects of the Mediterranean diet that research has indicated you might actually be able to further improve. And so you can find that on our website at novoslabs.com/diet. So I pretty much follow that. Most of the week, I would say I'm probably somewhat hypocaloric. I'm probably in a caloric deficit of 25% or so. But then a couple of days each week, particularly on the weekend when I might be quote unquote cheating, that's when I'm probably hypercaloric. And I find that to be a nice balance of not really disrupting my hormones as much, because I'm getting those hypercaloric days in there. So it normalizes me. And then those days, for the most part, where I'm hypocaloric, I'm benefiting from all of the physiological, biological effects that come with being at a caloric deficit.
And presumably, you must be participating in your own product, right? In the dog food, as it were. So do you take all of your NOVOS products?
I do. So there's NOVOS Core and NOVOS Boost are the two formulations that we have. And then we have NOVOS Age, which is the biological age test. I've been taking NOVOS Core and Boost since it was in the R&D phase. So that's about 3 years now. And that's one of the more distinct things that I'm doing compared to what other longevity advocates and enthusiasts might be doing, following all of the sleep hygiene recommendations and diet recommendations and so on. I'd say NOVOS Core and Boost might be one of those differences.
Right. And I guess that I'm interested to see that you're obviously testing your product with your own clients, as it were, because you're giving them the ability to take their tests, take your product and understand if they're moving the needle, which I think is admirable. What do you think about biological tests and what people and the press don't really understand yet? Because there's a lot of hype around this. There's no magic pill, as we know. It's great to think that time is going backwards as opposed to going forwards. But where are we getting it wrong? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so just a quick segue from the last point is in terms of like the results in Brian Johnson. We do have customers who have also achieved results that are greater than Brian Johnson's results for biological age versus chronological age, and they're actually on his Rejuvenation Olympics board. Not all of our customers wanted to be on there, but some of them did elect to, and so they're posted there. So it is something that's achievable. I'm no like superhuman. We have customers who are only changing a few things, specifically NOVOS Core and Boost, and achieving these results. Specifically about the biological age test, we look at these as being similar to what a scale would be if someone was on a weight loss journey. This is like the scale for a longevity journey. It's giving you some sort of objective marker that you can refer back to see if you're making progress, if you're going in the right direction or the wrong direction. It could also be motivating, right? So being able to see where you stand and then setting a goal for yourself is the first step in actually achieving something. So, but with that said, I think that what people don't understand about these biological age tests in general, especially in the press, is that it's not telling you literally how old you are biologically, right? Like we are complex organisms and we have many organs within us, and there's multiple hallmarks of aging. So it might actually be more closely correlated with, for example, your morbidity risk, your mortality risk. So me being nearly 40 years old, my biological age results imply that I'm someone in as if I'm in my mid to late 20s. So perhaps my risk of getting another disease like the brain tumor I had or passing away is that of someone in their 20s. But I don't look like I'm 25 years old. I know that I look like I'm in my 30s. And so to that point, I don't take it literally, like every aspect of me is that of a 25-year-old. Nonetheless, when it comes to longevity, the most important factors of that is avoiding disease, so increasing your health span, living as long as possible, increasing your lifespan, and then having the physiological capabilities of someone who's younger. So, and the mental, cognitive capabilities of somebody younger. So I think that that's what these tests are really capable of. Now, with that said, these tests, you have to be careful because not all of them are created equal. And I've oftentimes, all of the conversations I have in my role with NOVOS, I've spoken with people and they say, oh, I got my biological age test back and it says I'm, 10 years younger than my biological age. And I say, well, what test did you take? They don't know what test it is most often. And then sometimes when they do, I can say that those tests are not really validated in scientific studies, or they're first generation tests rather than third generation tests. And when it comes to epigenetic tests, precision and accuracy is the highest priority. And I think that a lot of people haven't come to realize that quite yet.
Yeah. So let's talk about NOVOS Age, and what do you feel is different about this compared to some of the other tests that we've got on the market now, and why have you made your choices behind that?
Sure. So NOVOS Age is a kit that includes 3 different tests. Now, one test is what we emphasize far and above the other 2. That test is the Dunedin Pace Rate of Aging Clock. That was created by researchers at Duke University and Columbia University. It's a 3rd generation test. Most other tests on the market are 1st or 2nd generation. So this is trained on phenotypes of actual real world capabilities and markers of aging and even morbidity and mortality. There are more than 45 scientific studies that have been conducted at more than 30 labs across the world investigating this specific clock. When you look at most other clocks, they might be a corporate black box. They might have a big name scientist attached to it, but there's really no validation across the scientific community of that clock. Its accuracy and precision are extremely high. So, for example, there's a measurement called ICC, and the ICC values for the Dunedin Pace clock are the highest out there. It's greater than 0.96. Most other clocks out there, they don't publish their ICC values either because they don't know them or because they don't compare to 0.96. It's the most sensitive to change of the clocks out there. So in as little as 3 months, from an intervention you're following, you can start to see the changes in the Dunedin pace results. Um, it's forward looking. So it's looking at your pace of aging, and this is telling you your trajectory, if you're slowing down your aging or you're accelerating it, whereas the other biological age clocks are a little bit more historical looking, if you will. Um, and it's trained on the longitudinal data set of more than 1,000 people over the course of more than a 50-year lifespan. So it's other tests out there aren't trained on longitudinal data sets. Um, and so, with all of that said, the other two tests that we offer, one is a biological age test. Why do we offer this when we have Dunedin pace? Well, the real reason is just to scratch the itch of the consumer. A lot of people are curious to know what their biological age is, and so we offer it. But we do emphasize that Dunedin pace is more accurate than the biological age.
Yeah.
So don't read too heavily into biological age. Yeah. And then the third test is telomere length, and we will tell you what your percentile is relative to your chronological age. When it comes to telomere length, the most important thing is to make sure that you're not too short or you're not too long, because there are negative health outcomes associated with both. So you want to be within a healthy percentile range. And so that's more of a check off the box, make sure you're within that range type of test.
Yeah, got it. Well, I mean, Chris, obviously your organization came out of the gate a few years ago. You're a dedicated longevity company, preventing aging and so forth. And the market's growing very fast. So how do you see NOVOS sitting in the longevity space? You know, where would you say you fit now?
Yeah, I'd say that we are leaders in the longevity space, that we're taking the latest knowledge directly from the scientific laboratory and transferring it to consumers. Part of the issue in the health or medical landscape that we face is that there are studies that have found that it takes plus or minus approximately 20 years for scientific innovations and discoveries to make its way into the medical clinic. And that's just way too much time that passes and lives that are lost as a result of that. So we feel that people need to be accountable for their own health in this new generation of preventative medicine. And by providing people with the latest insights and discoveries, we empower the consumer to be able to be their best advocate, their own best advocate for their own health. Yeah. So as a company, NOVOS is a public benefit corporation. I intentionally founded NOVOS as such, because that gives us more flexibility to do things in the public interest rather than purely for profit, whereas other companies are forced to try to maximize profit in every scenario, in every case possible. And so as a result of that, we're able to produce a lot of free content. For example, we have more than 150 articles written by medical doctors and PhDs with full scientific references for our position on different topics related to longevity. We offer something called Face Age, which you can find at novoslabs.com/faceage, which is an AI-powered tool where you take a selfie and it tells you how old your face is perceived, your eye age, your skin health markers like wrinkles and redness and pore size. And then, of course, we give you advice for how you can improve all of these scores. We have a longevity platform that is in beta right now, where we are giving people advice on how they can, on a personalized basis, improve their health span and lifespan. And all of this is free. We're the very first company to address all 12 hallmarks of aging. There are other companies that are inspired by our approach, but we were the first to have that vision of addressing aging by impacting all of the causes of aging simultaneously. We're the first company to offer third-generation epigenetic tests alongside our longevity formulations and the practical guidance that we give. And we're going to continue to be leaders in innovation and this knowledge transfer and helping consumers in a very practical, pragmatic way to be, as we like to say, be younger for longer.
Yeah, great. And of course, part of that R&D and that process is your formulations. So specifically thinking about NOVOS Core, how do you approach that? And what do you think about others in the marketplace that are perhaps just throwing together stuff and putting it in a capsule and putting it in a packet? Interested to know what your thoughts and your background story to that are.
Sure. So I had the vision 5 years ago to address aging by impacting all of the hallmarks simultaneously. At the time, it was 9 hallmarks, but when we embarked on this journey, we were also mindful of what is now considered 12 hallmarks of aging. Other things like, for example, inflammation. There were obvious factors related to aging that had not yet been solidified and officially declared, but there was enough scientific conversation about it for us to address those as well. So I would say that, first of all, at the time, no one else was doing this. No one, you have even biotech and pharma were addressing maybe one or two of the hallmarks at a time, but no one was trying to address everything simultaneously. So we were the first to do that. And how did we do this? So first of all, I've been involved in the health world since I was 12 years old, and I had been researching longevity for more than a decade and integrating it into my own life. But I also wanted to bring the most advanced, capable scientists and doctors into the fold as well to assist in the process. So I built out a scientific advisory board and medical advisory board. It consists of world-renowned longevity PhDs and MDs from Harvard Medical School, MIT, the Salk Institute, and other institutions. And together with our internal team, we formulated NOVOS Core, which we formulated according to 8 criteria, which I'll have to read because I don't have them all in my memory, but I'll just read those off very quickly. So one is they have the ability to impact at least one and ideally multiple mechanisms of aging simultaneously. This is per ingredient, that is. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is they have been able to extend lifespan in various animal models, hinting at conserved evolutionary pathways. 3, they are associated with reduced risk of different aging-related processes and outcomes in humans and animals, indicating that they act on the underlying aging process. Number 4 is they are associated with reduced risk of mortality in humans. Number 5, they are nature-based, found in food or human biology, but levels decline with age. Number 6, they have a very low side effect profile. Number 7, they have been used for decades or even centuries to treat specific symptoms or afflictions in humans without serious side effects. And number 8, they are considered safe by FDA, EFSA, and other organizations. So only when an ingredient met all of that criteria did we then begin to consider it. And from there, we dug into the research. Overall, we have more than 400 scientific studies supporting the ingredients that we have in our formulation. We have filed a patent for our formulation, as well as other combinations of ingredients that we may one day decide to experiment with as well. We're doing a number of scientific tests, both in vitro and in vivo. So I'll quickly run through those. So in vivo, we've shown epigenetic effects. So 73% of people in the case study, the human case study, had a reduction in their biological pace of aging. And almost as noteworthy as that is 0% of people had an acceleration in their pace of aging. So everyone was either equal or improved. The majority improved. And you would expect that some people would have accelerated their aging because of stressors that they might be encountering in their lives. So it was really interesting that we didn't see that. Second is in vitro DNA damage study. We've done a few of them. One irradiated cells, and we found that there was a reduction in oxidative damage by as much as 77% when NOVOS was administered. And we're also doing one that we haven't published yet, but it's involving chemotherapeutics and looking at single and double strand breaks. And I'll just say that we're seeing some really significant positive results in that study. Number 3 is cellular senescence. So we looked at the size of senescent cells, and we compared it to the gold standard prescription longevity drug, rapamycin, and our results were at the same order of magnitude as rapamycin. Keep in mind that NOVOS is all natural, available over the counter, and we address all 12 hallmarks, whereas rapamycin doesn't. And then number 4 is cellular inflammation. So there's a in vitro study done at the Salk Institute. We haven't published this yet either, but what I can say about it is we're looking at the inflammation of human cells, and of the 12 ingredients within NOVOS, 2 of them have an impact on cellular inflammation. So that's pterostilbene and fisetin. The combination of all of our ingredients actually had a significantly greater impact on the cellular inflammation than pterostilbene or fisetin combined. So that just lends itself to the synergistic effects of the entire combination of all of these ingredients that you would not get by simply taking pterostilbene or fisetin.
Very good, Chris. Well, of course, there's a lot going on with you guys at the moment, and it's been a pleasure talking with you today, and a pleasure watching NOVOS grow since you guys came on the scene a few years back. So, Chris, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.